Hi there. Welcome back to Engineering Influence, the podcast where we explore the challenges and opportunities shaping the engineering industry today. I'm your host, Molly Tuttle, Director of Workforce Development at ACEC. And joining me are Kathy Renzetti and Rodney Chester, two leaders deeply involved in workforce development and industry collaboration. Today, we're diving in how the industry is tackling workforce issues, what the ACEC Research Institute data tells us, and how companies are celebrating Engineers Week in ways that inspire our next generation. We'll also look ahead to where Engineers Week is going and share some important messages for parents. But first, I'd like to introduce our guest today. Kathy Renzetti is the Executive Director of Discover E, the nonprofit behind Engineers Week, Future City, and Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day. Discovery is also a founding member of the Engineering Workforce Consortium, the EWC. With decades of experience in nonprofit leadership, Kathy is passionate about celebrating engineers and inspiring our young people to explore STEM. Under her leadership, Discovery connects professionals, educators, and students worldwide to highlight engineering's role in building a better future. And Rodney Chester is the CEO of Gresham Smith, where he leads the firm's strategy and operations with a focus on sustainable growth, strong culture, and collaboration. A 28-year veteran of the company, Rodney has served in leadership roles from project manager to COO, and now chairs the board of directors. Beyond the firm, Rodney contributes nationally through ACEC, currently serving as the chair of the ACEC Workforce Development Committee. And he is working locally as a board member of the National Chamber of Commerce and Nashville United Way. So welcome, Kathy and Rodney. So glad you guys are here. So let's start with the big picture. The engineering industry is facing a workforce challenge, which is, finding, training, and retaining talent. But what's encouraging is how companies and associations and educators are coming together to tackle this issue. And Rodney, I'm going to start with you first, because we know that engineering companies can partner together, but can also be fierce competitors. From the company POV, why are engineering companies leaning in on collaborating with each other as an industry on these workforce-wide issues? And how do you think it's going so far?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the keys is the fact that most of the topics that we discuss among all the consulting firms, we all have a different opinion on many of the things. But the one thing that there's always the exact same opinion is related to workforce and the fact that there's a shortage in the industry. And collectively, we all agree that we've got to do something different to encourage more people to go into the industry. And then once they're in, encourage more people to stay in the industry. So yeah, while we're fiercely competitive and recruiting back and forth against each other, I think that is a topic to where we recognize that we've got to do something different collectively, or else this issue is just going to get worse. So I do think that helps kind of a collective state of mind. And I do think also that there's been enough dialogue over the last couple of years to realize that, we have to do things differently. And in order to encourage more people into the industry, we need to kind of collaboratively do that together.
And Kathy, sort of the same question, but really from your angle, working with nonprofits and other organizations out in the industry. I mean, competing might be a strong term for the associations because there is a lot of collaboration. But can you give us some positive examples of that collaboration that you're seeing across industry organizations?
Absolutely. I mean, ACEC is an example with the Workforce Consortium. That's one example where nonprofits, the engineering societies, we're all getting together and we're having these conversations about how to build awareness and get more students involved. There's also the STEM Ed Coalition, and that's focused on education and policy. And there's all the same groups are at that table. You have the United Engineering Foundation, and they're focused on grant making. So getting nonprofits funded to do all these great works to get kids and teachers and volunteers out there and building awareness and getting those pathways for students to get into engineering early in education and then through into workforce. So I just think there's just lots of different coalitions and you'll see them. And to Rodney's point, because the message is clear about that, okay, there's lots of ways to get into engineering. That's why there's just so many people in the space, which is great to see. It's really working, and we like seeing that collaboration.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like more and more organizations have workforce development as one of their key strategic priorities moving forward. I don't know, Rodney, you've seen that maybe in other companies. Wow.
Yeah, without a doubt. And dude, to add on to what Kathy was saying as well, I think when we started the ACEC Workforce Committee, started looking and saying, okay, what are some of the things that we need to be doing more of in the industry? We recognize that, groups like Discovery and ACE Mentor were already doing many of the things that we were talking about. We just felt like, instead of recreating the wheel, how can we use our interaction with all the consulting firms across the country to try to get more people engaged in the things Discovery was already doing, more firms engaged in the things that, say, ACE Mentor and some others were doing. So that alone has kind of created maybe even better collaboration than might have been in the past. We're not trying to kind of duplicate the effort, but rather trying to supplement and get people more engaged in those areas that are already being very beneficial. It just needs to be more of those things.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think too, as we kind of just shift a little bit to the data. I know we all can feel the workplace issues in our organizations and in companies. So the ACEC Research Institute has been tracking workforce trends and recently released a report that backs up what U.S. engineering companies are seeing and seen firsthand, what they've been saying, that the demand for engineers continues to outpace supply. So, for example, surveys reveal that firms are struggling to fill and retain positions, and the projections suggest that we'll need tens of thousands of more engineers in the coming decade. That's a big number. Kathy, can you talk a little bit about what some of the programs Discover E offers to hit on this need?
Sure. So the magic formula that we know, because we've been at this for more than 30 years, the magic formula is bringing in, and we focus obviously on engineers, bringing in the engineer into the classroom. So the formula is that volunteer working with an educator around a hands-on activity. So it's student-led. And then sort of connecting that experience to, this is a career opportunity. And we also know, and this sometimes surprises people, we need to reach kids with this experience as early as pre-K. A lot of times we're focused on high school and college. And at that point, a lot of kids have already counted themselves out or have been weeded out just because of the way our system is set up. So if we can get to those kids early, and it's got to be age appropriate, and that's a lot of the work that Discovery does, is we provide that. We provide, how do I volunteer? Well, we have all these materials on our website about how you do it. Well, I don't know what to do when I get in the classroom, right? Well, guess what? We have all these activities on our site. You just go in there, and we're not the only ones. There's a lot of nonprofits that have all these activities that you can just search. But you can usually go in and say, hey, I'm going to meet with first graders. I've got 10 minutes. I've got a half an hour, whatever it might be. What would be a great activity I could do with them? And it'll give you the leader notes, tell you what you need to bring. It's all packaged for you. It's a toolkit. And it also will walk you through, how do you set up, these meetings with the teachers? How do you get into the schools? So it's all there. And there's a lot that we do, and there's a lot of that others do, and you can find it online. But we really, really encourage, and Rodney will speak to this with what he does at his firm, getting volunteers out there. It creates these aha moments for kids. They'll see someone, especially if they look like them, like a woman coming into the classroom and talking about how she is an engineer and what she does and how exciting it is. That really sparks those aha moments for kids. And they're like, oh, I can do that. This looks great. I want to try it. We got to get in there early.
Yeah. Yeah. Rodney, kind of the same question as, when companies like yours, sees and reads this data that you've already been feeling, what is the impetus for you guys? What types of things do you look to do?
Yeah, I say, on one hand, it's really easy when companies kind of feel like, how much can they individually contribute in terms of just sending a small number of people maybe. And it's easy at that point for firms to just say, okay, you know what, we can't make enough impact to really make a difference. But one of the things we've tried to do collectively with the ACEC Workforce Committee is to say, okay, you know what, but if every firm feels like they're part of a much bigger national effort, a multi-organization effort, suddenly they feel like they can see the benefits of the entire collaborative approach. And I think that allows them to maybe stretch a little more and get a little more engaged because they do feel like that they're part of making a bigger collective difference. Because I do think most firms agree with exactly what Kathy was saying, is that a big part of this is about getting in front of kids and doing a better job of explaining what the exciting career is, how engineers can make a difference in the communities. I mean, that's so important to so many young people. And I think in the past, we as an industry have just not done as good of a job as we should in explaining what a career in engineering can be and the positive impacts it can have, as well as the positive career it can have for those in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, which is a good lead into Engineers Week, which is right around the corner, February 22nd to the 28th, a week dedicated to highlighting and featuring the career of engineering, and really a focus of encouraging our youth to follow this track to become an engineer. And no one knows more about that than Kathy, as Discovery has really leaned in and created this opportunity. And I know we're working with you on creating some more hype about it, and you guys have so many great things going on. But could you give us a little, I'm sure you're tired of doing this, but could you give us a little background on Engineers Week and kind of like the impetus for starting it and how it's evolved over the years? And then maybe any sneak peeks for this year that's new and exciting that you want to share.
Sure. So believe it or not, Engineers Week goes back to the 1950s. That's how long we've been celebrating. And it's changed a lot, Molly, like you just said. So in the 1950s, it was more insular. Like the societies got together and it was just, they would celebrate within their own community, right? And about 30 years ago in the early 2000s, there was this sort of moment where engineers were like, we don't have enough engineers. We need to start thinking about how we talk about our careers a little differently. So that really changed Engineers Week. And it really is how Discover Engineering came about, because the engineering societies then got together and said, what do we need to be doing? And they decided they would use Engineers Week now as a call to action. And that was how Discover Engineering as an organization was launched. So it was the major engineering societies that kind of got behind it and sort of transformed what Engineers Week was and what it is now. So it then became a call to action. It wasn't insular anymore. It was like, we need to get out. This is now a call for us as engineers to go out, volunteer in classrooms, get involved, start talking about ourselves differently, like Rodney was saying, that we're problem solvers and this is a fun career. And so it really changed the conversation a lot. And so now we do it based around a theme every year. Like, I think, Rodney, you hit the nail on the head. It's like, it's a big movement. We're doing movement building. So this year's theme is Transform Your World. And we encourage people to celebrate Engineers Week, every day, all year round. But this is a way to really force it and really put this idea of a movement, like Rodney was saying. You're part of something much larger, and we really can focus on it for a week. So it is exciting to say. And we do have all the resources. We try and make it as easy as possible, but also to create that movement feeling, right? So that everyone's sharing the same theme. You can go on our website. You can download all the materials so that you're using the same look and logo. We want you to put your own logo on it as well, to customize it. All the social media posts, we're trying to do it all within that week to build that excitement and momentum. We estimate over 5 million people are doing something. But then when we talk to someone at NASA, they're like, oh, that's too low. Like NASA alone is 5 million. So you're They're like, you're underestimating the numbers who are doing Engineers Week. So that's always good to hear. But we'll run into an engineer and they're like, oh my gosh, Engineers Week is like my birthday. It's like bigger than Christmas. So it's, so
Right.
it's fun. We really want to make it fun. And that's what engineering is.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, Rodney, I'm hoping you'll share with some of the things you guys are doing. And because it can also not only just attract, but retain. It can be a great tool. So I would love to hear what you guys are doing. I know you have a list of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for context, we're about 1,200 employees across 27 offices throughout the U.S. So we got a lot of different offices that are doing, a lot of different things. But, we do use the week kind of both internally and external. Our internal approach is about, hey, it's a week to celebrate our engineers from a retention standpoint, make sure that it's clear that, how much we appreciate everything that they're doing and as well as their development, their future careers. So we do a lot of fun things that week in terms of trivia things related to engineering. We have various competitions that everybody kind of gets excited about. And then, we wrap it up at the end of the week with, a big appreciation event for the engineers as well. And then, of course, externally, where it's all about how do we get more kids into the industry? How do we better educate those? In addition to just encouraging a lot of our engineers to go to the schools like, Kathy had noted, we also do a lot of stuff with social media in terms of profiling some of our engineers and the great things they're doing and how much they love their career and getting that out so that others can hear and see that. We want to be face to face as much as we can, but we also can reach a much larger audience by making sure that we're combining that with, some social media related activities, doing some fun things like, we got a bit of a creative thing that we partnered with the Girl Scouts this happened to be in North Carolina, to where we've helped them develop a new patch, which is a future designers patch. And then we'd help them develop a curriculum of kind of some age appropriate activities around engineering and architecture and interior design. And just so it gives them an opportunity to learn more about our industry in a very, very fun way. So I think those things have been very beneficial. And also beyond our company, things like, we see examples to where the states are getting together to host engineering game days or STEM game days, where they bring a lot of kids to, say, an NFL or college stadium, and they have different booths set up around the stadium to kind of explain how engineers were part of planning and designing and building and then operating all components of that. And it just gives the kids such a different perspective of how much fun an engineering career could be compared to what they may have heard previously. And we do feel like just doing more and more and more of those kind of things is going to be what's needed to make a difference.
Yeah, no, that's great. On ACEC, we've also, we created a toolkit as well that we've pushed out to our members, hopefully, hoping that people can just hit the easy button and reuse some things, looking at social media as well. And also possibly an event on Capitol Hill to kind of explain what it's all about to Hill staffers, so that when they go out into their districts and are talking about workforce development in this space, they have the resources that Discovery has, so many. We have a ton. I mean, all the organizations that are partnering in STEM and workforce development for engineers. So yeah, there's an endless possibility, and it's exciting. And you're right, Kathy, it's not just 1 week of the year. It's all year. But if it makes you feel like it's your birthday, I think that's awesome. Like, I think we're winning. I think that's a good job. I think that's great. Okay, so just on a shift, one of the things that I think, when we talk about this issue is, and we know there's not one silver bullet, but parents can really be instrumental to talking to their kids and leading them and guiding them to an engineering career. And so I wanted to look at, some of the ways that parents can help their kids understand the benefits of engineering and how to navigate that. Does Discover E have some of those tools as well? Or how do you encourage engagement with parents and some of that key messaging?
Yeah, parents are key. So we did some research a couple years ago, and I know ACECU just came out with your research, and a lot of what your research was saying was also things that we found. But we did ask parents, and our research for this project was high school students and their parents. So we had them both in the survey, and we found that high school students, their number one go-to person for career advice was their parent. And if you're a parent of a high school student, that might be surprising, but it's true. And also, the mom was top over dad, but parent was the top person they would go to for career advice. And we asked parents and high school students, like, what do you think of engineering and what do you think is important for a future career? Both the high school students and the parents did have a positive impression of engineering, and that the top concern for them was financial stability. So being able to tell them, right out of high school, even kids can have a very high salary in engineering. So you might be a degreed engineer, you might be a technician engineer, you might be supporting engineers, but all of those careers, even some out of high school, pay very well. And that was surprising to parents and students. So I think an important message for parents is, one, there are multiple pathways into engineering, and it's not always a 4-year degree. And that was surprising. And there's, a lot of times, once you get into the engineering community, a lot of times companies will pay for your degree, and that can really help students. Certification is another way in. Sometimes if you get certified in something that is, concrete certification, that can lead to, even in high school, you can get these certifications that can help. A lot of students then pay for their college education because they can actually work in a field with a certification. That was surprising to a lot of parents and students. So I think messaging is really important, that there are multiple pathways. I think the other piece that's really important to message is that, a lot of students and parents think, oh, if your kid is good at math and science, then you should steer them into engineering. And that's not true. Really, what we are looking for is creative problem solvers. Math and sciences are tools, but people who really want to solve problems and get excited about that, especially like global problems or or even very local in their community, those are the type of people we want. They might not be the best at math and science, but when they're trying to solve a problem and math and science comes into play, they are curious enough and they want to solve that problem. They're going to learn the math and science to get them there. So it's, a lot of times kids are counted out because parents or teachers don't think they are interested in math and science. So we also need to really start talking about, do you want to solve problems? What is important to you? And are you creative? And do you like being in teams? And those are more important messages than math and science. So those are a couple of things that we've learned. And it's exciting when engineers get excited when they get to talk about solving the problem. Nobody wants to talk about, their math and science schoolwork. They talk about the things they've done and achieved.
Right. I mean, if there's anything I've learned working with engineers is they're problem solvers, which is great.
Yes.
Rodney, so on the backside of that, what would you say are some of the misconceptions out there? If we could myth bust some of these things, dispel what kids are thinking to going that route.
Yeah. Well, in addition to the one Kathy mentioned about, hey, you're going to be doing math all the time. I think in addition to that one, that, we have done a poor job of probably dispelling other rumors such as, hey, you got to work really long hours if you're an engineer and you're not going to have great work-life balance. I think, those misconceptions, are things that we need to make sure that we continue to address. I think also that just because there's a lack of understanding, I think often, the current generation wants to be in a role where they feel like they are positively impacting their community. And for some reason, we've not done a good job of probably educating even the parents on all the things that engineers do that are directly related to the things that the kids are wanting in terms of contributing to, positive communities, making impacts there. So I do think that in terms of the parents, we also probably need to make sure that we're providing more useful materials to the parents, because most of them probably could not explain very well to their kids what engineers do, because they just don't understand it themselves if they've not been exposed to it. So while we tend to have a focus on saying, okay, what can we get in front of the kids? And we need to continue to do that. But I do think we also need to parallel to that, make sure what kind of materials and resources should we give the parents so that they're able to then turn around and guide their children and give them a good explanation to that as well.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we've covered a lot of ground here. I think, from data and parent messaging, Engineers Week, and, how we can message better for our parents using them as a great tool and messenger. We have our work cut out for us. I think we all agree. I think we're all doing a lot of things. Like I said earlier, I think you all would agree there's not a silver bullet on this, and continually collaborating and working together will be so important, which you both do a great job of, and really appreciate working with you guys. Is there any last thoughts about, this moving forward, your great wisdom in your positions that you would share?
Well, the only thing is always, we've not really hit on technology related items or AI or anything in this particular podcast, but I will say there's another area that making sure that we're doing a good job of communicating. Just, if there's kids that they're technology driven and, they're wanting to be in a career to where that's a big part of what they do. That's also another avenue where, AI and technology advancements are having such a huge impact on our industry, that the number of positions and number of roles that we're going to have that are very, very kind of technology focused is continuing to increase. So I think also just widening that scope of all the different types of things that would interest kids to go into the industry. We need to make sure that we're opening everyone's eyes to that as well.
And I don't know that I have words of wisdom, but since Engineers Week is right around the corner, we do also have like products and t-shirts and, all kinds of things. And there is a discount code for ACEC members if they wanted to go and get, whatever, stickers. Stickers is actually the biggest thing people want. Stickers. It's ACEC-eWeek, and I'll send it to you guys so you can have it for the podcast. But if you want to go in that classroom and be the hero, and you have all the Engineers Week stickers that everyone puts on their water bottles, then you're going to be that hero. But I think it's really important. I guess my words of wisdom is to go in those classrooms and show the joy that you have in your job. I think that is the most important thing that kids need to see. And like Rodney said, we really need to also be talking to those parents, because believe it or not, they're the biggest influencer.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, this has been great. Thank you both, Kathy and Rodney, for sharing your insights. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. And we look forward to talking to you hopefully again soon. Thank you so much.